What's up, Falcon fans? On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals versus the Atlanta Falcons. If you guys like this type of content, hit that like button. If you guys hate this type of content, hit that dislike button. It will hurt your boy's feelings. Well, maybe just a little bit. But also, if you want to do a huge favor for your boy, by hitting that subscribe button, it will help out the empire grow. So on that note, let's dive into the 7 categories that I have for today's video. Let's get started with category number 1. Home field advantage versus home field advantage. So the Atlanta Falcons are going to travel to Arizona to play in State Farm Stadium at 4 o'clock p.m. And I'm going to give my points to the Arizona Cardinals. So now let's talk about category number 2. Coaches versus coaches. Arthur Smith versus Jonathan Gannon. Let's start out with Jonathan Gannon first. This is his first time being a head coach at any position. So it's very interesting what he did previously when he was defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021 through 2022, and they were pretty historic on the defensive side of the ball. So clearly, when you're going from that to the Arizona Cardinals, they are 1-8 so far. Their defense been kind of shaky, but they're not trash, but they're not great either. They have some really key players on the defensive side of the ball because if you really think about it, they almost had the opportunities in beating the Commanders, the Giants, and yes, even the Baltimore Ravens at their place if everything just went their way, but it didn't. But they did beat the Dallas Cowboys back in week 3, and that was pretty stunning. So they do have the opportunities to beat great teams. So now let's talk about Arthur Smith. For me personally, I'm kind of fed up with Arthur Smith play calling and a lot of other things that really shouldn't be a problem at this day and age in his 3rd season so far. If you guys want more information about Arthur Smith, go check out the other preview videos I have done. But I'm going to give my points to the Atlanta Falcons just because Arthur Smith is 2-0 against rookie head coaches. So now let's talk about category number 3. Cardinals quarterback wide receiver versus the Falcons secondary. Let's start out with the Cardinals. Their wide receiving core is pretty decent. They got Marquise Brown, Michael Wilson, and Randall Moore. Now, Brown has 4 receiving touchdowns. He's leading the receiving core in 440 yards of receiving, so not that bad. He's their most targeted because he has 27 first down completions. So it's definitely, he's going to be the factor for moving the chains for them when it comes to the passing game. So when it comes to the quarterback play, Kyler Murray is supposedly going to be playing first time this season, and that's a whole new game changer. I don't know, because previously it was Joshua Dobbs that we just lost to when he was with the Vikings. Not funny. And then they got the Clayton Tune. I think that's how you say my boy's name. He got to play in 2 games so far. Didn't look good against the Cleveland Browns. So honestly, I don't really know what the outcome on this situation is. It's going to be interesting. So let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons defense. They have been holding their own in the secondary, but my only biggest concern is I've seen this in a couple games now where they only blow certain type of coverages that allow the opposing team to score a touchdown or move the drive to get a touchdown. So that's something that they have to clean up fast because they've been doing this multiple times in certain games for some reason, and they're just better than that. But even still, I'm going to give my points to the Atlanta Falcons because I'm hoping that Kyler Murray is not 100% healthy. That's the only main reason. So now let's talk about category number 4. Cardinals running back, tight end, and O-line versus the Falcons front 7. Let's start out with the Cardinals. Their offensive line is pretty bad. They give up 3 sacks per game when Joshua Dobbs was at the helm, and when he's gone, and he's a mobile quarterback, by the way, and so when he's gone, and they got Clayton Tune at the helm, he was sacked 7 times last week against the Cleveland Browns. So it doesn't help because he's a pocket passer, not a mobile quarterback. So this is going to be a lot harder for the offensive line to protect him. And also, the run game is pretty bad. Now, James Conner is probably their best. Now, he does average 5 points per carry, but even still, their second best running back is Joshua Dobbs, and he's the quarterback. So now he's gone, and now they got DeMarco Cotto. Hopefully I'm saying my boy's name right. He's their 3rd best option and might be their first because James Conner has been on IR recently. So I don't know if he's going to come play in this game. So that's even worse for the offensive line because even when in pass protection, they still haven't done a great job as well. So now let's talk about the Falcons front 7. So far, I've been impressed with their tackle for losses, their quarterback hurries, their quarterback hits, and yes, the sacks, we only have 19 so far, so hoping we can, add that to boost. But I definitely do like the forced fumbles with 8 so far. I mean, they get after, the running backs, they get after in good coverages when the linebackers need to. The only kryptonite so far for the Atlanta Falcons front seven is the quarterback run play. That has been gashing us. Ever since maybe week 2 or maybe week 3 probably, where we just can't stop the quarterback from getting the first down outside or inside of the pocket, and that's been really hurting this defense so far. So on that note, I'm going to give my points to the Atlanta Falcons front seven. Now let's talk about category number 5. Falcons quarterback and wide receiver versus the Cardinals secondary. Let's start out with the Falcons. So far, I've been pretty impressed with Taylor Heinicke's commitment in trying to help the Atlanta Falcons get out of this tough time situation with Arthur Smith. I like what he does inside and outside the pocket. I like his read options. I like he just throws quickly. I like his movement mechanics. I like his eye vision. I like where he can see down the field and just get after the guy. Fantastic job in his department. There's some throws I'm not too crazy about, but that's only because of Arthur Smith and his pitiful play calling that Heinicke has to commend. But I like the connection with Drake London. Unfortunately for Mac Hollins, it's been just a disappointing factor because what he did with Las Vegas Raiders is something to be commended, but so far he hasn't panned out right now. Hopefully that Heinicke and that connection can change. And then of course Kadarius Hodge is definitely his safety blanket, and he has been benefiting all over the place on the field, so great job on that. Scotty Miller, hopefully he gets back into his old self as well. But now let's talk about the Cardinals secondary. Their secondary is decent. They got Marco Wilson, they got Wallace, they got Jalen Thompson, and then they got Clark as well. They can handle themselves pretty well by pass deflections and interceptions and sometimes forced fumbles to boot. But the problem is if people don't realize that they're on the field more than they should than the offense side of the ball, so they get tired. So in the third and fourth quarter, they kind of lose focus because they do a pretty good job in the first half, but not in the second half because the offense constantly goes, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. But they're still a pretty good unit, so I wouldn't, dismiss them at all. But anyways, I'm going to give my points to the Arizona Cardinals because they have more of a contingencies of a team gel so far right now. So now let's talk about category number 6. Falcons running back, tight end, O-line versus the Cardinals front seven. Let's start out with the Falcons. The offensive line has done a better job in preventing sacks from the quarterback since Desmond Ridder was at the helm to Taylor Heinicke now, where he only has 2 right now at this very moment. And I thought, they've done a really good job and just slowly but surely, building the rushing attack, gaining 2 to 5 to 10 yards per average attempts. They still need to find the bigger holes to make those bigger run plays because we only have, for Bijan Robinson, 4 big 20-plus runs. That needs to increase a little bit more. But I really just blame it, again, on Arthur Smith play calling, unfortunately, where it comes to the outside zone run play, especially on the right side, on the left side and the interior as well. The whole running back community has done a pretty good job. They could do a lot better. They are capable of doing a lot better compared to last year, but you know what? It is something we just have to adjust, and I can't really complain too much about that. But our 2 tight end sets are definitely a key reason why we're almost winning these games. Kyle Pitts is still not his 100% form compared to his rookie year where he just balled out. Now, clearly that's probably Arthur Smith using him wrong, setting him in weird positions where he really shouldn't. But then you got Jonnu Smith, who's doing killer work for the Atlanta Falcons receiving core. He's definitely the second guy that Heinicke and Ridder really trust in, and that shows a lot of commitment and passion and a good scheme-wise to put him in perfect positions for him to ball. For some reason, we can't do that with Kyle Pitts. Hopefully, we can change that sooner than later. But now let's talk about the Cardinals front seven. This front seven shows you why they got Jonathan Gannon in the first place, because they have 25 total sacks, getting after the quarterback pretty often than not compared to our 19 total sacks. Now, when it comes to pass deflections, they have 33 in total, but half of that good chunk is from the linebackers and defensive tackles and defensive end. And of course, they got 8 forced fumbles as well. So they really do a good job in getting after the quarterback and making them hesitate and make them do dumb plays and throw a lot of ways of the balls. Now, Azir White is their best player on defense right now. He's the linebacker. He has 2 sacks, 9 tackles for losses, and 2 pass deflections and 1 interception. So he is going to be the key guy to watch out for. But in total, they're not that bad. Now, the problem is, yet again, they have to rely on the offense side of the ball to do their thing, because if it's not, it's going to be a long day for them, and they do a pretty good job on film. Now, on paper, it's a completely different story if you don't watch Arizona Cardinal games. So on that note, I'm going to give my point to the Atlanta Falcons, because at the end of the day, I know they can finish all 4 phases: first, second, third, and fourth quarter. Now let's talk about category number 7. Special teams versus special teams. Let's start out with the Arizona Cardinals. And they have Matt Prater, their place kicker, that old-time NFL fans would know. He was a G for the Broncos, he was a G for the Detroit Lions, and he's a G for the Cardinals, where he did a lot of incredible game-winning drive, kicking 50-plus yards to 60-plus yards, to having game record, that 64 longest field goal kick when he was with the Broncos. That's something to be amazed by. And he's still pretty good, being his 17th season so far in the NFL. Now, when it comes to Younghoe Koo, he's a little bit younger, but Koo has done a lot of good stuff for the Atlanta Falcons and winning them games, scoring them points when the offensive side can't score any points for some reason. But I still like them both, so that's why I'm going to give my points to both teams, because they do a pretty good job, and not just in place kicking, but in punting as well, and making sure they don't score a punting or returning touchdown as well. So now let's talk about the final predictions. My final prediction is that the Atlanta Falcons will beat the Arizona Cardinals 37-16. We should have a landslide. We should not have a problem defeating the Arizona Cardinals right now, because they are in a rebuilding mode. They're trying to figure out who they want to establish and how they're going to do that, right? And unfortunately, for some reason, we have not been taking full advantage of opponents when they're in their most troubled times for some reason in the past couple of weeks. So hopefully we can change that, but I will tell all you guys that deep down inside, I do not feel comfortable about this game, especially if it's true that Kyler Murray will play for the Arizona Cardinals. Hopefully that's not the outcome, but I do feel like this is the good opportunity to beat them, but we'll just have to wait and see. So on that note, if you guys watched to the very end of the video, thank you so much for taking your own personal time and day to watch these Falcon content videos. Here's more on the screen if you guys are interested. So what do Falcons do? Rise up. Until the next episode, show love and peace to the world, and peace.